So the category it comes in as an import is industrial product, not a food ingredient.
That's the way I understand it. It's not counted as a dairy import today. You have to decipher through the dairy imports to figure out exactly what they call food grade MPC versus industrial grade, but they do not count it as a dairy import.
So I'm guessing they probably they wouldn't track it back to a point of origin, since it's for industrial uses. It's probably unknown origin for the milk protein concentrates imports.
Like Ann said, because it goes into a process ingredient, countries of origin labeling is not required. I mean, some of the MPCs, milk protein concentrates coming in, are actually coming in from countries like Singapore who have no dairy cows. So it's like a dumping ground to that country.
So they're just processing the milk and packaging it and
just
shipping
ends up
it out.
in their port.
Right. So then
and
it goes out.
from their port to the United States, but that's considered the point of destination is Singapore. One thing I wanted to point out about the milk protein concentrates, New Zealand is a huge dairy exporter. And I just would like to note that New Zealand does not use milk protein concentrates in any of their food sources for their consumers. They dry it all down and export it to countries like the United States. So if New Zealand is not putting milk protein concentrate in their consumers' food products, why are we doing it in the United States?
Well, I guess that's a really good question. And I think it's partly that our food supply is built on this idea that everything has to be fast and convenient. So our food industry is motivated by these casein proteins that might let them make some kind of new, fluffy, low-calorie, weird-looking thing that doesn't look like food to me, but young kids see it advertised on television and then they're asking their parents, please, let's buy that. And unfortunately, in America, we haven't held on to that important cultural need to have food that's recognizable, that your grandmother would have recognized as food, or your great-grandparents. And we've convinced Americans, I think, that they don't have enough time to find delicious food or to make delicious food, or they're being penny-wise and pound-foolish and buying cheap convenience foods or fast foods that aren't even made with the ingredients that you would serve your family, but it's done because they think they're saving money. Then we have healthcare costs that are going through the roof, obesity problems in 10-year-olds, adults with all sorts of problems related to heart disease, and a lot of that has to do with food choices made decades before. And we're really seeing the cost of taking care of that. So I think as Americans, we're going to pay one way or the other. I'd rather pay to have the delicious whole food that I know comes from a neighbor. I can go to the neighbor's house and see the stainless steel equipment and meet the neighbor, rather than somebody from Singapore who has no idea where they're shipping that casein to. That's my opinion, but I think, again, Americans, if they knew that, they would probably make different choices.
Yeah, like the real good example is the stainless steel in America that's required, and in China you've got galvanized pipes, which are ridden with lead, and so you've got them using lead pipes to make milk into MPCs. So there again, very different,
Yeah, very different
very
standards
big
for
disparity.
the environment, and of course, I know there's been exposés about how some of those nations are really polluting. We've given them pollution problems because they are not as sophisticated with the manufacturing, so they're improvising and doing things that are probably dangerous to the environment as well to people.
Now, why do MPCs appeal to our processors and manufacturers as an import?
Well, the main reason they appeal is profit. MPCs, I've heard numbers that they can be imported in here at around $7 or $8 a hundredweight, and the main source of them is New Zealand, and United States dairy farmers can't compete with New Zealand. They have the utopia of dairy climate. They pasture their cows there, they can produce it very cheaply, their milk, and they don't have any people living there, so everything goes out of the country. And what has happened is this country has become the dumping ground for their surpluses. And they've created MPCs because it reduces the carbon footprint on that milk. And they can ship it long distances cheap. So when MPCs are mixed into the cheese vat, it boosts cheese yields 30 to 40%. And what this does is it replaces out all the local milk that would have been added into that vat instead of the MPCs. So the bottom line, it's just all about profit and sneaking these products into areas, not just the supermarket. We're talking the fast food industry, the pizza industry. There's most cheese in this country is classified. Your classified cheeses like cheddar, mozzarella, things that are regulated by our government. Those products do not contain MPCs. It's your cheese food, processed cheese food, which it says on the label, or what they call pizza cheese that's mass produced and sent out into the market. So that basically summarizes where it's used.
And again, consumers are thinking that they're giving their child maybe a better snack having a cheese pizza, but it may be an imitation cheese that doesn't, has a little of that, and then mostly additives and colorants and guar gum and carrageenan to make it look like cheese and sort of behave like cheese, but it isn't cheese. And again, where is the consequence? It's in health consequences down the road, which aren't so obvious the day you eat it. It's after years of eating that and wondering why people don't look good.
Yeah, definitely there's some issues with dairy food integrity. Like you say, the parent thinks they're serving a wholesome frozen pizza, not realizing that that cheese is
Right, or you go to a
not.
store and order a cheeseburger, you think you're getting cheese, but I'm not sure they're all using cheese on their burgers. And again, the motivation, if it's money, and stockholders that are really your guide to behavior, you may be substituting some of these less wholesome products.